You're now listening to the Thousand Story Podcast, presented by Thousand Story. Welcome to the Thousand Story Podcast. We are your hosts, Naji
and Luis.
And today,
such a crack in my voice. And
we're talking about Ubering everywhere. What does that mean?
Yes.
Well, basically, the daily grind that people are in mid-transition from going from part-time music to full-time music are in. So a lot of freelancers, a lot of us are basically picking up odd-end jobs or doing things that kind of allow us more free time to work on a craft.
Yes.
But at the same time, give us so we can eat basic job stuff.
Yes.
But
so we have shelter, food, and clothes.
Precisely. So what are some of the trials and tribulations that we've gone through as creatives doing the part-time thing ourselves, or people that are, someone who has done it in my case? How do you go through that? How do you transition into being a full-time creative?
Yes.
And some things we're basically going to be talking about, some things you can do to kind of make the transition smoother. Just
so you
kind of help you out. Those are helpful tips.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the first one here. Basically, let's start from the beginning, right? So us being creatives, us having to, have this drive to make stuff, but we don't have enough time to do it. We still have to actually eat and actually support ourselves.
Because that's a crazy thing, because you're basically doing two jobs at one time.
Yes.
Because you're building up your business essentially as an
Exactly.
entrepreneur, because it's art. You're making money off of it. It's your business. It's your business.
Right.
And on top of that, while making virtually no money with that, you still have to eat.
Yeah. The conundrum. And so
How
it
do you
is.
do that?
So for me, when I was in this conundrum, basically I had to, figure out, I kind of had to prioritize. I had to look at my priorities and figure out what I actually wanted out of music, out of my job, out of my life, really. So I had to look at why I wanted to create so badly, and was it important enough to, try and supplement my income or replace it altogether with that creativity, or was it something that I could just keep as a hobby? And actually making that distinction first off is probably the most critical, because you don't want to be wasting time. You don't want to be putting effort into something you realistically don't actually want to do professionally, because it's very different going from hobbyism to professionalism in anything, but especially in the creative realm, because one, it's just a whole different responsibility that comes with it being professional.
Yeah, I mean, you're your own boss.
Yeah. That, and once you actually put content out under the guise of being professional, that represents a whole, you have to actually, be credible. You have to put out quality content. Whereas before, when it was just a hobby, maybe you could put out just crap and that'd be okay, because it's just whatever. But if you actually want to gain a reputation and gain clientele base, if you want to actually make a name for yourself, you have to elevate your game.
Yeah.
And that's an important distinction. It's like going from one stage of a relationship to the next. It's one
of those interesting things, because it also changes the people that you end up collaborating with too.
Yes.
Which is,
yes, it does.
A topic
absolutely
for another time.
Another day. Collabs. We'll get into that. But yes, absolutely. Your entire mindset has to change once you go from hobbyism up to professionalism.
Yes.
So once you make that distinction, then it's like, okay, I really want to do this. So I still need to eat, and I don't really have a means to create and make money off of that yet. So how do I supplement my income so I can kind of work as much as I can on the craft, and then still eat? That's where we get the part-time jobs, the Ubering, and
it's cool because nowadays we have a lot of options as millennials, because Ubering and Lyfting are two really, really good ways to supplement income when you may be cutting hours somewhere else.
Right.
I would never recommend to just Uber.
Right.
because
From your own experience.
from my own experience, because I did that, and it was it ate up so much of my time. And on top of that, I don't know if some people aren't aware who haven't Ubered before, but they don't take taxes out. So that's something that you have to do on your own, because you're basically self-employed as an Uber driver.
Yes, you are.
So shout out to QuickBooks, self-employed app. Just saying.
The juice.
Yeah.
Y'all should get that if you are self-employed. This isn't even an ad, like no joke. Like, it's just like
amazing. Because if you do Uber and Lyft, that app will count your miles, which is incredible, because you want to be able to write stuff off, like, I don't know, putting money into your car, gas, things that you use for your business.
Maintenance,
exactly.
Upgrades,
Oil changes, anything. But anyway, yeah, so I was doing it for a while, like just straight, like full time. And I mean, it was cool to be like, oh, I made like $1,000 in a week. Like, oh, now I'm good for the month. But wait, I didn't really make $1,000 because of all the money that I spent on gas, all the money that I spent doing all this stuff. That's why I do not recommend using, Uber and Lyft as your sole main source of income.
Right.
Yeah,
I wouldn't either. You know, besides the time that it takes to earn that amount of income,
Yes.
then you have the deductions that come from taxes if you're actually properly handling your business, which is a whole other thing.
Which most people aren't.
Most people aren't.
So if you get audited, fuck, good luck.
Good luck. You know, that's a whole other conversation, figuring out how to run a business. That is an entirely different podcast.
Yes.
But you know, it's these are the little things that you have to take into account before you even start the whole venture into going full time. You have to understand that it is a business.
Yes.
So as such, you need to figure out, while you're trying to supplement things, one, how you can allocate time to, one, your craft, obviously, but two, educating yourself on what it means to be a self-employed person, what it means to be full-time in that self-employment, and how to navigate the murky waters of taxes and LLCs and making sure everything's, you know, being accountable, and, you know, making sure that everybody is accounted for as far as, you know, invoicing, or, you know, making sure you're getting your stuff paid on time, or, you know, getting content out to other people. These are all things you have to learn. These are all things you have to actually go and educate yourself on. So while you're on the job, or while you're on the search for, you know, a job, or if you already have the job, your priorities at this stage, or this part of this stage, should be figuring out how to educate yourself as much as possible. And then you can figure out from that point how much time you need to allocate to that. So if you already know a lot of this, cool. You really don't need to allocate all that much time to the education. It's always helpful to go and review and refresh, but you don't need to allocate too much time to that if you already know what you're getting into. And then you need to figure out how much time you actually need to practice what you want to do, or to actually create and do the things that is going to be your second job. You are essentially, like you were saying, you have two jobs. You have to allocate time to the second job if you want it to go any further. So choose jobs that allow you that flexibility, or maybe give you like a specific dedicated time set that you know won't deviate.
Yes.
And then you can work around that. And then it's a matter of, okay, I know I have this time available. How you utilize that time is a whole other thing. Again, we'll get more into that another day. But, you know, it's really important to find that distinction. So just to review, one, finding this distinction of if it's a hobby or if it's professional, and, you know, choosing which one you want that to be. Then educating yourself, if you choose the professional route, on the business mindset, on all the facets of running your own business and being your own business. And then, you know, implementing and finding what your own biological time is for, you know, that you have allocated aside. So if you have the job, if you have another job and you figured out you have that time for that job, figuring out what time you need for your second job, your passion. So once you get to that kind of point where you've figured out those three things, then the next part is, okay, so you kind of start having questions. You're like, okay, I've been doing this for a while now. I'm starting to gain some traction.
Yeah. Been working at Starbucks.
Right.
Been doing the Uber.
You know,
been doing all this stuff.
And I got some commissions now. Like, I'm feeling good. I got like 5 clients that are steadily giving me some work, but it's not enough yet. It's getting me there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people at this point start asking, you know, when do I know I should quit, or how should I quit? Because a lot of people jump the gun. I've jumped the gun. And I've tried to jump the gun before many times, but I actually funnily enough, I got fired from my job, so I kind of was forced to jump the gun, and that was the last time I actually needed a job, because I kind of put things in place before that. But how do you know when you should quit? For me, I know when I basically I based it off of some advice that I got from a few different people. They're like random webinars and just YouTube videos that I would peruse through. And the common thing among everything and anything creative was that you need what are called superfans, or people that are always going to buy your stuff, are always going to support you 100%. Though, like true fans, not the people that are like, that's dope, and they'll share it. We're talking about real marketable,
like ride or die.
Yeah, ride or die, monetized fans, people that will actively support you financially. And when you get to the point, either where you have, the magic number for most people, we're saying like 1,000.
I was going to say, how many super fans does it take
to like fully sustain yourself?
To fully sustain yourself.
It's very subjective, depends on your field, obviously.
Yeah.
But their magic number was about 1,000. The 1,000 people who would always support and buy your stuff or buy your merch whenever you put it out, you would be fine. 100%. You could quit your job before that, or when you reach that point, and you'd be guaranteed set for life. But that was more than just quitting your job. That was just being fully functional on the other side as well. Like that's 1,000 fans. So my recommendation for quitting the job, just for that part of it, is once you see, because in my case, technically, I don't really have 1,000 superfans yet. I'm full time. Once you see that your current income is completely replaced by the other job, and you feel like you have room to breathe, by your passion, then quit. Or at least get ready to quit and start cutting hours off. You don't have to just quit cold turkey, but kind of take it in steps and wean yourself off at that point when you can see, okay, I don't need, or at least, I can support myself fully with this one thing. Then you can allow yourself to start moving away from the other job. And again, the 1,000 superfans thing is like just for once you have the passion job fully, that's for like if you really want to thrive in that. If you want to feel like you are thriving, that's where 1,000 superfans come in. But just for quitting or starting to quit, when you feel like your income is fully supplemented and you're not going to be stressed if you lose that other job or if something happens, like that's when you can start moving over. So moving over is a matter of, it's not just saying bye and then starting. Again, all of this is preparation. It's saving, from the other job. It's saving maybe $100 from every paycheck or $200 every paycheck and setting it aside for, establishing the business and registering content and documents. And then, giving yourself capital for that business. And, setting aside, kind of like a fallback.
Yeah, because you need something to fall back. I mean, there's going to be times where I think while you're starting your new business where you're just not going to be as comfortable as you were when you had your full-time job.
You're just not.
Sometimes. It just happens.
I wasn't. I'm still not like comfortable. I'm just, I would call myself content. Like or this is doable. I can live with this currently. Where I'm at right now as a full-time musician is that my income was fully replaced. But that's now at this present moment. When I was fired, that was not the case. I was like, oh my God. Like I had some income.
I remember when that happened and I texted you immediately. I was like, hey,
you gonna be able to pay rent, dog?
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to be mean, but are you
like,
okay?
You good? And that's a real thing, that's terrifying. Because the thing is, I'd actually planned on quitting 3 months after that, but it happened 3 months earlier. So there was, luckily I had prepared and had set myself up a little savings and got myself a little buffer zone so I could successfully make those 3 months.
Yeah.
And I was able to make the transition to where I started gaining enough income from the passion side to be able to just fully sustain it. And most of my income, funnily enough, doesn't come from merch or from physical CD sales. It comes from streams, like literally people just playing my music on Spotify or Google Play or iTunes.
That's wild.
And that's great. Mostly Spotify, honestly, like 70 to 80% of it is Spotify. And that's amazing. That's crazy that we're in this day and age where you can do that.
Yes.
But
if you set yourself up correctly.
If you set yourself up correctly. And luckily from the get-go, just because of the people that I've been involved with, like Mani and Selection, and how Mani runs things over there, we've from the base up, have established my business system and my business, just the way I operate
Mm.
to be successful and to kind of set myself up for the long term as an independent artist. And now I'm able to successfully transition over to that. I'm not waiting on a label to pay me out every 6 months or every
Yeah.
quarter. I get paid monthly via STEM. I'm able to actually organize my taxes via Intuit QuickBooks. And, these are things that I'd established while I was working.
Yeah.
Way before I got, fired. I was already prepared mentally.
Because we said it before. I mean, like the moment that you start your business, you are in charge of every facet of your business. So you have to be aware that like before you even transition into or think about quitting, you have to realize, okay, what does it actually take to run a business? Oh, I have to do my own accounting. Oh, I have to do my own taxes. Oh, I have to, all of these things that as an artist, most of the times you just don't think about because you're just too busy creating art,
Yep.
So,
And that is the thing that's most disappointing that I really want to start changing or want people to change is that us as artists
yes,
really have to understand that, if you want to succeed as an artist, you have to succeed as a businessman.
as a businessman. Yeah.
And that is
Or
just,
woman, businesswoman.
or
Business
businesswoman,
person.
Yes. And that's really an important distinction. Like you have to understand artists create, yes, but we have this habit of feeling like if we have to do business, then it's no longer creativity or it's no
exactly that it's like not fun anymore.
It's
and
like, bro, no.
It's like the most fun because you're making your own money with
Like,
your
you're
own
doing
shit.
it. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And we have to start opening ourselves up
Yes.
to being business people.
Yes.
It's not a scary thing.
No.
It's confusing at first, but it's not a scary
1,000%.
thing.
I feel it. I mean, I hate it. I really do. I
Right.
don't like it. I don't like thinking about money. I don't like thinking about accounting. But in this day and age, if it's something that I really, really want to do, as much as I'd like to just be like, oh, it's just art for art's sake, like, yeah, that's not going to put food on my table. Like, that's not going to put a roof over my head. So
If you have a kid, that's not going to feed them. That's
Exactly.
not, that's not going to get their shots. That's not going
Exactly.
to give them insurance. Like these are things you have to think about. And even insurance, like how do you get that in place? So for myself, I happen to be in an income bracket and in a state where I'm able to afford Medicaid or I'm given Medicaid, but I'm already transitioning. Like when I had my previous job, I had employer provided Medicare.
Of course.
And then, the transition from going to that to lesser income, I had to be provided by Medicaid by the state.
Yes.
But I'm already plotting and planning and have things in plan. So when I get to a certain income bracket, then I can afford Medicare from my own or from the marketplace. That's something that most people don't even have in our realm, as independent artists. A lot of us don't even have that. And you have to look at like how many resources are available for us. Like there's no shame in taking what's available for you, for help for you. And then, using that to get to where you want to, so you don't need the help any longer.
Yeah.
It's fine. And, just looking at that, looking at realistically what you're making, looking at how to make more so you don't have to do those things that make you feel like, oh, this kind of gross or like I feel terrible. It's all about
a lot of companies even help though. Like the Ubers and Lyfts, for example, like they send me emails like all the time. They're like, hey, you don't have healthcare? Like you should look at this program. They will help you.
Right.
And it's just real because they don't provide it.
They do not.
You're self-employed, so you got to do it yourself.
Contractor.
And how do you do that? Yeah.
So these are the things you have to think about. When you decide to quit, you have to look at everything. How do you supplement your current life over there? Everything, and once you can feasibly say, I know exactly what's going to happen, or maybe I have a plan of how I'm going to attack things that may happen, right? Then you can start weaning and transitioning over to that point.
Yes.
So that kind of leads into the third point. Once you're there and you're sustaining, once you're at that point where you're fully in it, like you're free, you're just freelancer full time. How do you sustain that? How do you keep the clientele interested? And that is a whole, again, very subjective thing, dependent on the field, dependent on the market that you're in. But typically, it's just keeping yourself disciplined, and that's where scheduling things come in. You don't. It's really easy to go from being on a 9-to-5 and having a rigid schedule and having to be there, and if you're not, you're fired. And then going to freelancer where you make your own schedule and then just slacking off. It's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
And it's important to make your own schedule. It's important to keep things consistent and disciplined so you can actually continually sustain yourself and keep that and keep your passion going.
Mhm.
You know, that discipline, I think, is pretty much the last step. Once you keep it, just keep it and
Yeah.
keep yourself disciplined.
Yeah. Isn't that a line in in To Pimp a Butterfly?
Is it?
I think that's a line that Dr. Dre says.
Huh.
He said, "Hey, you remember when you came to my mansion? You were like, how do I get that?" He's like, "The easy part's getting it. The hardest part's keeping it," or something like that.
Bars.
I was like, bars. Real words, Dr. Dre. Real words.
But
The
yeah,
doctor said that.
doctor said it. Doctor prescribed.
Doctor prescribed.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's real, though, because I think it is true, though, because the hardest part is really keeping your head above water, you know? And
I mean, it's going to be, there are going to be highs and lows.
Oh, yeah,
obviously.
obviously.
You know, there's going to be points.
That's why you set yourself up in the beginning before you just jump into it with absolutely no know-how into what you're getting into and what you actually need to succeed, you know? You can't go in without any tools.
Yeah. And in the case of music, you know, so it's like, okay, where do I learn from? What do I learn from? Fortunately, there aren't really a lot of resources that we know of or that are just kind of centralized for musicians.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. You know,
Yes.
when we want to educate ourselves, we're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to make money.
Yeah.
Where do I make money from?
There are still so many things that I don't even know about.
Right.
And I'm already like, I don't want to say, I'm setting myself up
Right.
for a transition.
Yeah. And that's what we're working on now. That's what I guess that's our job as millennials and as people that are independent artists. It's up to us to actually create the sources or create the resources and actually share the information, you know, not hog it, not just be like, you know, you get your own, I got mine. Like it's up to us to create these wells or these wells of information that provide us the wealth that we want. You know, as far as mental wealth, you know, financial health and financial wealth, obviously, but it's important for us to actually share these things. So, you know, as far as resources for musicians, there are plenty. I know for a fact, one thing you can start with is looking up what a PRO is, which is a performance rights organization.
I had no idea what it was.
Right. Most like I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 artists that I've spoken to don't know what that even is.
Yeah.
They're like, what is that, dog? And what that is basically that's one type of royalty on the compositional side. As we briefly covered compositional stuff at the beginning of the podcast.
Episode 1.
But that's one type of royalty on the composition. It's a performance royalty, and not yes, performance in the context of being in a live show. Technically, you're owed a royalty from the venue if you perform your song in their venue live. That technically they owe you that.
That's cool.
And sometimes they'll pay it if they're aware of that. Sometimes, like the more established venues obviously will, but they'll pay it not directly to you. They'll pay it in the form of a blanket license, which basically means that they pay BMI or whatever pro that they want to a huge chunk of money up front. And then they say, okay, any of the artists that play in your venue, it's basically covered with this blanket license, so you don't have to pay them royalties individually. So we, as artists, get paid performance royalties live, but also via terrestrial radio. So what does that mean? That means like, you know, radio in your car, any FM, AM, terrestrial, like Earth-related radio. And that is different from digital radio, like satellite FM or Sirius FM. Those are a different royalty. That's on the sound exchange side, which is a whole other thing. But start with that.
Wild.
Start with PROs and how they give us income.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of delve into the other aspects of royalties.
Like we were talking about mechanical royalties.
Yeah.
And the history of that is just
It's
insane
wild
to me.
It was literally derived from a mechanical piece of machinery that got printed out or got physically, you know, in piano rolls.
Right, for the piano rolls.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
And there's a lot of antiquated terminology and there's a lot of antiquated, you know, law, I guess, protecting us, but we don't actually know what it means or how it protects us or why it protects us.
Because there's no information out there for new artists.
It's really hard to find.
No idea.
So that's my task to you. You know, as the listener, as even just a casual listener,
yes.
If you're wondering how musicians make money, we make money from obviously active income like live touring and merch and passive income such as royalties.
Yes.
And a bunch of us don't know how to make half of our income.
Yeah.
So that's the task.
I think it goes the same for like even graphic designers or like artists such as that, because it's not similar, but like contracts are everything.
Scary
and terrifying, but they're everything.
They are, though.
Everything.
Read contracts.
Yes.
Know that everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable.
Yes.
You don't have to take $1 million up front. You don't have to take $10,000 up front. You can do whatever you want. Everything is negotiable.
Yeah.
And again, we can go for hours
for
on
days
this.
with that.
But just to wrap everything up in review, when you're starting or when you're getting ready to transition or you're mid-transition in any creative field, just remember those steps. Figure out hobbyism versus professionalism.
Yes.
Educate yourself at that point. Make a plan, and then keep yourself to that plan.
Yeah.
Discipline yourself to keep yourself educated and keep yourself practicing.
Just say part of that plan too is how much do you really need for you to live?
Yeah.
How much money
Budget
do you need?
that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at it. Observe it. Observe everything about your life and break it down and figure out how you can supplement that with your passion. And then once you have that mental pregame established, then start making the transition over.
Yeah.
And then you're not even, don't just jump in cold turkey if you can help it. Slowly transition so you can learn some of the, just get some trial and error going. Figure out what's going on. Figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And you will be okay.
Because you're on your own at that point.
Yeah.
That's all you. And the team that you build.
And the team.
Should you decide to build a team.
In due
Which
time.
you should.
So hopefully that was a bit helpful for you guys. We're looking to kind of make this second phase, if you will, of the podcast, educational, yes, but kind of more concise and informative, and hopefully you guys, casual listeners, learn something new, but especially creatives learn something new and learn something about how to make themselves better and their business better. So,
also, shout out to the people who listened to all 8 episodes.
Yeah, y'all
last
are real.
week, because
y'all are real.
Damn, I already know some people shot me some messages that were talking that already listened to it, and I was like, yo, that's wild. Thank you. I love you.
And speaking of which, if you guys want to support, you don't need to support monetarily. Literally, just write a review, or just like on iTunes, on Google Play, like anywhere. Just that is what gets the podcast further and grows the audience. It's reviews and getting it higher up in the marketplace and getting a bigger audience. That will allow us to grow.
Share it with your friends.
Share.
Your families, your dog.
If you don't like podcasts, your cat might like it.
We said cat at the same time. Oh, yeah. Or just put it on.
That too. So thank you for listening, and we shall see you next week. What is next week's podcast?
So next week, we're talking about the 10 different paths.
What is that?
It's all about different business people or different public figures, or the paths that they took and where they were when they were 25 years old and fucking up still.
And if you have any questions for us, hit us up on the site at thousandstory.co/contact. Or you can reach us on Twitter or Instagram at thousandstory_. That is an actual underscore, not the word underscore. And then if you want to hit me or Louise up, my handles are at Mr. Naji Boy at MrNajiBoy.
And I go by at El Pontillo. That's LPONTILLO on Instagram. And at Luis Pontillo, that's LUISPONTILLO on Twitter.
So we'll see you next time, ladies and gents and non-binary fellow people.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.